Come and fly away with me. 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 Don't you be afraid, everything will change. You and I jumping off the edge. They say dreamers never die, so come.
South Africa, a traveller's first love of the motherland. At the moment I took the first step off the plane in South Africa, it was as if the land itself took a breath with me. There it was, Table Mountain, ancient and immovable, rising like a giant awakening from a deep slumber. Beneath it, Cape Town unfurled in all directions, a living canvas of ocean blues, sunburnt earth, and flashes of green where nature clung defiantly to the slopes. The air was charged, thick with salt and something else, possibility. A breeze carried the scent of fynbos, the native flora that grows nowhere else in the world. I wandered through the Bokap, where each house was a burst of colour, each corner echoing with the strength of the Cape Malay community. Their stories were in the spices, the smiles, the calls to prayer drifting on the wind. But this, and then Soweto. Laughter on every street corner. Music, kwaito, jazz, soul, poured from open doors and passing cars. To walk here is to feel the pulse of a nation that has fought, healed, and now dances forward. South Africa speaks in 11 official languages, and somehow I wanted to hear them all. From the rhythmic clicks of 𝐼𝐶𝐿 to the melodic sweep of Afrikaans, each one felt like a song sung by the land itself. I found myself in quiet rural villages where time slows and conversations stretch into the breeze. There, I was welcomed not just as a traveller, but as a guest, offered stories, meals, and a window into everyday life. One day, I stood among hundreds at the Zulu Umhlanga reed dance, watching young women dressed in vivid colours move in graceful unison. It wasn't just a performance, it was pride, heritage, and femininity in motion. Later, I shared a homemade boboti with a local family, its spiced meat and egg topping as comforting as a hug. And at a braai, I tasted flame-grilled meats under a sky scattered with stars. You could tell food isn't just sustenance in here, it's something more. My journey began in Cape Town, a city suspended between drama and elegance. Table Mountain loomed behind me, the Atlantic Ocean shimmered ahead, and somehow I was caught between both. From the cable car, the city below looked like a living mosaic. I wandered through the company's garden, found rhythm at the V&A waterfront, and watched the sun dip behind Clifton Beach, turning the sand to gold. In Cape Town, nature and city pulse as one, and I was only just beginning to keep time. Cobblestone streets led me through this living canvas, and everywhere I turned, the spirit of the Cape Malay community radiated from windows, doorsteps, and open smiles. It wasn't just the colours that stirred something in me, it was the smell of spice drifting through the air. I ducked into a small family-run eatery, where boboti was served with sweet chutney and rice, and dessert came in the form of a soft, creamy milk tart that tasted like comfort. But it was the people, welcoming, curious, proud, who made it unforgettable. I arrived in Johannesburg, or 𝐬𝐿𝐵 as the locals affectionately call it, feeling the city before I truly saw it. There's something electric here, a restless hum in the air, as if the city itself is constantly in motion, forging new paths while remembering old scars. In Maboneng, once a forgotten industrial space, I found a neighbourhood reborn. Warehouses transformed into galleries, boutiques, and rooftop bars where the skyline glowed against deep blue dusk. Street art danced on every wall, and young creators moved with purpose. This was more than urban revival. It was living proof of South Africa's innovation and artistic soul. This was a city unafraid to confront its truths. Just outside 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐢, Soweto awaited. Only a short drive away, but it felt like another world, one carved by history, fire, and resistance. Vilakazi Street was my starting point, the only street on Earth to have housed two Nobel Peace Prize winners, Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu. Inside Mandela House, I could still feel the weight of his presence in the worn floors and preserved letters. But Soweto isn't frozen in time. The present was everywhere. Kids playing soccer, jazz spilling from windows, and the pulse of Quito beating into the evening sky. I didn't just walk through history, I danced in it. Soweto moves. It remembers, rejoices, and refuses to be anything less than alive. I arrived in Durban with the sun on my back and the sea in my ears. This coastal gem, where the warm Indian Ocean kisses golden shores, felt like a city shaped by both tide and time. My first steps took me along the Golden Mile, where surfers carved through curling waves and families laughed beneath sun umbrellas. The air smelled of salt, sunscreen, and sizzling street food. I followed my nose to a food cart and ordered a local legend, bunny chow. A hollowed-out loaf of bread filled with rich, spicy curry. It was as messy as it was delicious. Durban's flavours echo its heritage, Zulu, Indian, and colonial roots stirring together into something entirely its own. Even the rhythm of the city feels like a heartbeat, steady, warm, and deeply human. But South Africa is never one note. A few hours inland, I found myself in Pretoria, where the pulse slows and the past seems to echo from the very stones. Towering over the city, the Union buildings swept me into a sense of grandeur. Sir Herbert Baker's columns standing proudly beneath the blue sky. The gardens below, blooming wildly, softened the city's formality with bursts of colour and calm. But just blocks away, Pretoria hummed with life. Sidewalk cafes, students laughing, the smell of coffee and ambition floating on the breeze. In Pretoria, the old and the new hold hands, and history breathes beside hope. The road curled gently along the coast as I followed the garden route to Port Elizabeth, a city that greets you like an old friend, arms wide and unhurried. Known as the Friendly City, it lived up to its name from the first smile exchanged on the promenade. At Donkin Reserve, perched above the harbour, I paused to take it all in. The flutter of flags, the cry of gulls, the wind whispering across the grass. A short drive brought me to the sandy sanctuary of Boulders Beach. There, nestled among rounded granite boulders, I met the most unexpected locals, African penguins. Waddling like they owned the place, and maybe they do, they darted through the waves with joyful abandon. I stood there, smiling like a child, captivated by their charm. Later, Stanley Street in Richmond Hill drew me in with its creative buzz. Handcrafted art spilled from shop fronts, laughter tumbled from cafes, and the scent of fresh roasted coffee hung in the air like a warm embrace. It felt like a quiet celebration of everyday life. But South Africa isn't done with awe. Far north, I entered Kruger National Park, where the land breathes ancient stories and the wild doesn't whisper, it roars. My first safari began before sunrise, light breaking in soft streaks across the sky. The bushveld stirred, and then zebras, lions, a leopard melting into the brush like smoke. Every heartbeat was sharper here, every sound more alive. A tower of giraffes moved in graceful silence. Rhinos rolled in red dust. In that sacred space, I felt small, but completely alive. As dusk settled, we circled around a crackling campfire. Stars blinked above. Stories were shared. Somewhere in the distance, a lion called into the night, and I knew I would never be the same. The journey leads me deep into the embrace of the Drakensberg Mountains, their jagged silhouettes etched against a watercolour sky. Known as 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐿𝐵𝐷, The Barrier of Spears, by the Zulu, this majestic range holds stories older than time, whispered by wind through valleys carved by centuries. As I follow a winding trail through the foothills, the land unfurls like a dream. Sandstone cliffs tower above, streaked with age and weather, waterfalls spilling from their edges like threads of silver. The scent of wildflowers mingles with the cool breath of the mountains, pure, earthy, grounding. With each step, the modern world fades. I cross streams that sparkle in dappled sunlight, pass rock formations shaped like castles, and listen to silence so complete it feels sacred. My boots crunch softly on ancient paths, walked by generations long before me. In shaded rock overhangs, I pause to admire sandrock art, faded yet powerful, silent witnesses to humanity's oldest stories. At the summit, wind dances against my skin as the entire valley stretches beneath me. No photograph could capture the enormity of this moment. In this untouched wilderness, I don't just see nature, I feel it in my chest. And ahead, something calls again. In the subtropical warmth of KwaZulu-Natal, I find myself standing at the edge of 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿𝐿 Wetland Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site where 5 distinct ecosystems converge. The landscape is nothing short of a living canvas, where the Indian Ocean's warm waters kiss lush forests, creating a breathtaking colour of biodiversity. As I drift along the St. Lucia estuary, the gentle sway of the boat feels in harmony with the world around me. Hippos lazily submerge in the shallow waters, while crocodiles bask under the African sun, their stillness a reminder of ancient primordial life. Suddenly, flocks of birds take to the sky, their wings painting streaks of colour across the endless blue, as if they're weaving a story only nature can tell. Exploring deeper into the coastal forests, the towering trees seem to touch the heavens, their branches draped in emerald moss. Monkeys playfully swing through the canopy, their chatter echoing in the stillness, a soundtrack to the serenity that surrounds me. As the sun sets and the day softens, I walk onto a secluded beach, eager for an unforgettable experience. Loggerhead and leatherback turtles, ancient mariners guided by the stars, emerge from the ocean to lay their eggs, a quiet but powerful reminder of the fragile, beautiful balance of life. Driving south along the rugged, breathtaking Eastern Cape coastline, I find myself in the untamed beauty of the wild coast, where nature and culture collide in a stunning display of life and history. The road curves, revealing cliffs that dive into the turquoise sea, creating hidden beaches and secluded coves that seem to exist in their own timeless world. The landscape here is painted in rich greens and blues, dotted with traditional Xhosa huts, as if the land itself has been carved by generations of its people. As I venture deeper into Xhosa territory, I'm welcomed by villagers whose warmth matches the heat of the African sun. I listen, enraptured, to stories of ancestors and spirits, tales that echo of resilience and survival through centuries. There's a deep, sacred connection between the people and their land, one I can feel in my bones. As the sun dips below the horizon, the air cools and a bonfire crackles on the beach. Xhosa dancers, adorned in colourful traditional attire, move with energy and grace, their rhythms accompanied by the steady beat of drums. In this moment, surrounded by the beauty of the coast and the spirit of the people, I realise how deeply South Africa's cultural thread runs. As I drove through the scenic hills of the Western Cape, I found myself heading towards Franschhoek, a town that had long been a dream destination for food lovers. Known as South Africa's French Corner, Franschhoek's enchanting blend of natural beauty and culinary excellence promised a journey for the senses. It was a place where history, culture, and food intertwined so beautifully that every moment felt like a love affair with the land itself. When I arrived in Franschhoek, the sight that greeted me was nothing short of mesmerizing. The town sat nestled in a lush valley, surrounded by vineyards that climbed up the mountainsides, their neat rows creating a pattern of green and gold. The air was crisp, tinged with the scent of earth and ripe grapes. I took a deep breath, feeling the world slow down as I stepped into this tranquil haven. I began my exploration by wandering through the charming main street, a cobbled avenue lined with delightful art galleries, quaint boutiques, and the promise of culinary delights at every turn. It was impossible not to be swept up by the charm of the place. Each restaurant seemed to call my name, inviting me to discover its own version of South Africa's rich culinary heritage. My first stop was 𝐼𝐴, an elegant yet inviting restaurant renowned for its fine dining. As I sat at my table, the attentive staff guided me through the evening's offerings, each dish an ode to the land that nurtured it. The flavors exploded on my tongue in ways I could never have imagined. Seared fish paired perfectly with a refreshing Sauvignon Blanc from the surrounding vineyards, followed by slow-cooked lamb that melted in my mouth. I savored each bite, marveling at the thoughtfulness behind every dish. It was a love letter to the land, a celebration of its bountiful harvest. As the evening drew to a close, I found myself reluctant to leave the warmth of the restaurant. The ambiance was so inviting, so romantic, that I could have lingered for hours. But I knew there was more to discover. I ventured to 𝐸𝐵𝐻's, another of the town's culinary gems. The intimate setting, paired with a menu that combined bold South African flavors with European influences, was the perfect way to end my night. I enjoyed a traditional bobotie, a Cape Malay dish full of fragrant spices, and sipped on a glass of rich red wine. As the flavors danced across my palate, I felt like I had fallen in love with this town, with its food, its history, and the memories I was creating. The next morning, I explored the town further, discovering a farmer's market where the produce was as vibrant as the town itself. I tasted artisanal cheeses, freshly baked breads, and homemade preserves, each bite a reminder of the love and care poured into the food that graced my plate. I couldn't help but marvel at the town's ability to blend its French heritage with the best of local produce and global influences. Franschhoek had captured my heart. It wasn't just the food, though that was undeniably divine. It was the warmth of the people, the beauty of the landscape, and the way everything came together so perfectly, just like a beautiful meal prepared with love. South Africa is a land of unmatched beauty, rich history, and a vibrant culture waiting to be explored. From the bustling cities to the serene landscapes, every corner offers something unforgettable. So why not come and experience it for yourself? Let the warmth of its people, the flavors of its food, and the majesty of its nature captivate you. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with others. Your adventure awaits.